Well, hello you guys, welcome back to Z Tech Revolution, and today what we have here, sitting on top of my Epson Artisan printer is, believe it or not, a new motherboard for my old HP computer. And believe it or not, this one is the latest Intel system board that has ever been produced until they discontinued in 2014 or 15. And the model of this board is an Intel DQ87PG, so that one's a Haswell architecture motherboard to fit DDR3 RAM and Haswell CPUs, but not Haswell refreshed CPUs. But anyways, it also comes with a bulk of accessories, like a diagram on what the specs of the motherboard is. It also comes with two SATA cables, which is very convenient to plug in SATA hard drives. It comes with an I/O plate, which is important, and it also comes with a CD-ROM to install all the express drivers in the system board. And right next to it is, believe it or not, the stock HP or Dell cooler for socket 1150, 1155, or 1151 processors. So it's like pretty stock, but it could handle up to 95 watts. That's what the TDP is given on these kind of heat sinks. But believe it or not, this thing actually came out of the old HP NV700 workstation, which I upgraded the heatsink and the processor, which used to have an i5-4570, but now it has a 4690K. And I also kept the i5-4570 as a spare, which is what I'm going to be using for this board. And the fan is not original. I actually changed it out from the stock Cooler Master to this AVC fan because the Cooler Master is currently in use with the new heatsink that has copper pipes. And anyways, as I mentioned to you about where this motherboard is going to belong is inside this old HP system, which I once rebuilt using an Intel DG35EC. That's the current motherboard that I have in there, with the G35 Express chipset, a Core 2 Quad Q9550S, and an SSD 256 gigs and a 500 gig Seagate Barracuda 7212 hard drive, and an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 745 graphics card. And of course I did put new stickers on this system. So anyways, what we're going to do now is we're going to run benchmarks on the CPU, seeing how fast it goes, and then once we do that, we're going to say our final goodbye to this motherboard's run, although it's going to be running soon because I'm going to recase this board. But anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So right now it's running Windows 7 Ultimate, and I'm using throttle stop. So right now, as you can see, the idle temperatures show like 41, 41, 45, and 37. Pretty sure that those could be just broken sensors on the processor cores. But anyways, as I run a benchmark, as you can see, the processor gradually heats up to like, it's only like 45 degrees Celsius under load, but it might get up to like 50, I would consider. And I set the voltage to like 1.1 volts, so it's pretty much not the stock voltage that you would be getting on this. So once I'm done running the benchmark and once the results come back, I'm gonna tell you what the score is. Alright you guys, so I got the test results back and I got around 69 seconds on the benchmark test. And the CPU only hit around 49 degrees Celsius under load. It was under full load, and basically it did not heat up that bad, given that I have a beefy cooler in there, which is the AVC copper pipe cooler, which were originally intended for Celeron D or Pentium 4 or Pentium D processors. But this one is actually quite overkill, and it's doing a very good job cooling down the Q9550, especially the S version that only takes up 65 watts. So anyways, let's go ahead and shut down the computer and do one last visit to Windows XP. As the logo shows, the floppy drive seeks at the same time, and this one is not original, so I actually added in a floppy drive. And as we go ahead and select Windows XP, which is Media Center Edition 2005 with Service Pack 3, that's the version of this operating system. And once it's done booting up, it's actually booting into the Seagate Barracuda hard drive right there. So as you can hear, it actually just booted up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the main user. She boots up quick. So anyways, as we look at the specs, shows that we got the Q9550 processor. Don't be alarmed if it doesn't show S on these old motherboards, because somehow, even though this is only a 65 watt processor, it still would be recognized as the Q9550. However, it's just not intended for overclocking. That's why it's like consuming low power. And anyways, it does utilize all 4 cores, and I do have 8 gigs of RAM. However, this 32-bit of Windows XP only could recognize 3.3¼ gigs of RAM. So anyways, we're going to shut her off, unplug everything, including the power supply, and then we're going to change out the board. Just want to say goodbye to this board. And it shuts down successfully. So anyways, it has been a good run, so I'm going to go ahead and unplug her from the power supply, do a CMOS drain, and then in the meanwhile I'm going to unbox the new motherboard. Alrighty, you guys, so let's get the new board unboxing, and we got the I/O plates, SATA cables, which we already have enough. We got the CD-ROM. We got the user manual on how to install it, so there you can see the owner of this board who packaged it printed out how to align and install the CPU, and the other notes. How not to apply force when when installing the CPU. So let's go ahead and take this out. Alrighty, so as we've opened up and unboxed the new board, there you can see how it looks brand new with the LGA115X socket, and as you can tell, somehow it's actually with the stock Foxconn backplate that actually uses the pop in pop out feature. So what I'm gonna have to do is change out the backplate to where it has the wings to screw in the heatsink, because I'm actually using the spare stock Cooler Master 95 watt heatsink. And once that is done, we're gonna start assembling. Alright, so I got the first 2 DIMMs installed. Now we're gonna give it a go and first test, see if that board works with the new CPU, see if it still posts. There we go. It's currently flashing and we got signal. Following warnings that were detected during this boot. Memory size decrease. I'm not sure what that means, but let's go ahead and get into the BIOS. There we are. Welcome to the future of BIOS. Alright, so let's go ahead and mount the new motherboard inside this case, and then we're gonna get it to post once it's ready. Alright, so I hooked up the I/O plate, so let's go ahead and mount the new board. Alright, you guys, so I managed to get this system to post, and right now it's booting. It booted into Windows 8.1 because I actually changed up hard drive from the ST3500-418AS to the newer ST500DM002, which is still the Barracuda 7212 series, except this one's the newer model. And as you can see, I got the board finally to post, and the fans are working as they're supposed to. I did have to swap the SSD and the hard drive because somehow, because of those cables blocking the way to get the hard drive in, I actually put the hard drive down there and the SSD up there. So anyways, I have the CD-ROM and the SATA connected to the DVD drive, so I'm going to open her up and get the CD-ROM in there to install all the Intel drivers. Here it is. So I'm going to run the installer. So far, I had managed to get the system to post and recognize the newer Seagate Barracuda 7212 hard drive. What you're seeing this system doing right now is doing a legacy boot into Windows 8.1 with that Seagate Barracuda 500 gig hard drive that's in there. What's about to happen next is I'm going to be installing Windows 10 on the 256 gig SSD that I have installed in there and all the UEFI drivers. Alrighty, so I went ahead and installed Windows 10 on this machine, the new Intel DQ87PG board, and right now it's at the setup screen. Right now the graphics card that it's using is the Intel HD Graphics 4600 with 160 CUDA cores, which is a decent amount for a professional computer. And so is 192 CUDA cores for a mainstream Core i5 computer, which still has the Core 2 Quad sticker, but I'm happy with it because it kind of looks more like an i5 sticker than a Core 2 Quad. And so is the LED light running as well on the new board, which is very cool. And right now it's connecting me to the network, and once it's done I'll show you how it's working. Alright you guys, so far this is my final product, which is working like a charm right now. Please stay tuned for the next part, which is where I'm going to be upgrading the power supply and the graphics card on the system. Right now the current specs are a Core i5 4570 quad core processor with a 3.2 GHz base frequency, 16 gigs of DDR3 1600 RAM, a 256 gig Inland Pro SSD, and a 500 gig Seagate hard drive, and an NVIDIA GTX 745 in this video. The power supply I'll be upgrading to is an HP 460 watt power supply. This amount of watts will be enough to supply power to the graphics card I'll be upgrading to, which is the GTX 960 with 2 gigs of GDDR5, and the model that I have that I'm going to be putting in the next video is the PNY brand. So anyways, you guys, I hope you liked my first part of the video. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.